Mixing meditation with what you know. Now, what I'm going to present here is a little advanced. Not really advanced, but it's different. And it may not be everyone's cup of tea. However, I'm sure that some of you are going to find it useful enough. Beginning meditation is quite hard for a lot of us. It's difficult to find the time, sometimes difficult to actually practice. And often the time each day that we have available is minimal. Of course, we all wish we had more time to practice, or that we wish that we felt like using whatever time we have for meditating. But sometimes we just want to just relax and do nothing. Sometimes we just skip it. In fact, I'm surprised at myself how clever I am in postponing and getting out of my daily meditation time. In some respects, I'm a genius, just not in a useful way. And there's another issue. I was raised Catholic, and I went to church for an hour or so, whatever it was, each Sunday. Of course, whether I liked it or not, my parents made me do it. The simple truth is that an hour a week will never be enough to save me or get me to heaven. I'm just way too much of a black sheep for that. And the same goes for meditation. Even meditating for half an hour a day is sometimes hard for me to squeeze into my schedule. And that much meditation is still not enough practice for me to really benefit greatly from. I'm not putting it down. I'm just pointing out that the balance between time needed and time spent for meditation is disproportionate for most of us. The most I ever practiced was a commitment of 2 hours a day for 2 years while taking a Mahamudra course from His Eminence Taisitu Rinpoche. 2 hours was a lot for me to squeeze out of my schedule each day. But it gets worse. The worst was that I did not like forcing myself to practice that long. And over those 2 years, I gradually built up an approach avoidance reaction to sitting in general. It's kind of a dangerous cycle. After a while, even if I thought of that 2-hour commitment, that 2-hour requirement that I had to do that day, I began to have an adverse reaction. Using simple mental feng shui, my own practice had become an obstacle to my practice. I had, without realizing it, stained my practice by not liking to do it. And certainly I was not being skillful with my old delinquent self. I should have known better than to make that kind of commitment. But there is another way to do a lot of practice in a relatively painless way. And I eventually learned it, and I'm going to share it here with you. And I call it, piggybacking on your skills. Now, this technique is only going to be useful to those of you who have managed to acquire a skill or discipline of some kind that requires real concentration and also the muscle memory that goes with practicing. For example, it could be a skill like fly tying that fishermen do, or playing a musical instrument, playing a game of chess. I don't know, it doesn't matter. It's what have you. The point is that there must be some skill where you've already paid your dues. You've already learned the habit part of the skill. And it also must be something that you like to do, or at least a little joyful, or at least content to do it. So all you have to do is begin to apply this same meditation technique, shamatha, to your favorite skill. Now let me say what that means. It means that while you're concentrating, using the skill, tying flies, playing chess, practicing the guitar, and when you become distracted or interrupted, like we do in anything, either by your own daydreaming or by some outside interruption, like a phone call, just do the same thing you would do when meditating on a cushion. Be aware that you have lost concentration and gently bring your mind back to rest on the job at hand and continue as you were. Every time you're interrupted, just do the same thing. You can do this all day long as you want, because I've done it, I've tried it. And you'll be logging meditation practice in hours, just as you would if you could, sitting on a cushion, which I couldn't for that long, or wouldn't. I was surprised at how much practice time I actually was able to get in a single day. And don't forget to dedicate the merit, which is in another audio blog. Anyway, this idea came from a remark my meditation teacher of 30 years now, Tibetan Lama, said to a group of us at a teaching, something to the effect that, he said, those of you who work on a computer for long periods of time may have an advantage because you have already learned to concentrate. Of course, a light bulb went off in my mind right away, because I did that all day long, every day. So I began to try to mix my mind and my mind training with other areas of my life where concentration was involved, and it worked. I want to just add another, just kind of a sidebar. I know that there are all kinds of psychological therapies that dig in the past out there, trying to air out or rejigger the past. But this is not how meditation handles past traumas. This is just something to know about and to think about. I mean, I did. To my mind, the present, the here and the now, is the only way to control the past and create an endless series of perfect present moments that gradually build up into a new past. And that better past, whatever we would call it, overwrites what we're trying to forget with some fresh experience. In time, the new past that we create from the present is supportive enough that we no longer identify with the traumatic events from our old past. We just forget about it, as they say. It's no longer threatening us. So let me sum up this little audio blog. First, we learn some muscle memory by practicing shamatha meditation with its focus on an object and the mindfulness training to keep from straying from the object itself. This really takes time, because at the same time we have to become familiar with how the mind works, how our mind works, plus the fact that we can't just force the mind to rest. We each have to discover how to let the mind rest naturally, and there's where the rub is. That's the rub. There's no pill that we can take to become more aware, and nobody can do it for us. Each of us has to do this awakening for ourselves. And the problem is that since we don't really know what enlightenment, mind recognition, or even greater awareness actually feels like, because we haven't experienced it yet, we're kind of feeling our way along here in the dark. This is why it's helpful to have someone who already knows how to meditate there to guide us, to show us the way, and to be there to answer the questions that just naturally arise. We have to learn how to let the mind rest, and we don't know how. Now, we naturally let the mind rest all the time when we're not thinking about it. But we gradually have to be able to do this consciously, at will. What we need to develop is an awareness of the mind at rest, and how to allow the mind to come to rest. This is best done on the cushion as part of a regular Dharma practice. Trying to do it off the cushion, at least in the beginning, is probably not the way to learn this. That comes later. Once the habits of resting and mindfulness have been acquired, once we learn how to meditate, we will notice that these same habits also work off the cushion in what's called post-meditation, as well as on the cushion. In other words, whatever we are concentrating on in life, when we are distracted from that, we can learn to gently bring the mind back to the task at hand and just continue. Now, this alone, I find, is a great help, especially for those of us who have to work for a living. Being able to concentrate on a task, do it properly, finish it in a timely manner, is a great skill to have. It can make the difference between keeping a job and losing it. Also, the two accumulations, which I have done another audio blog on, which are called merit and awareness, also work off the cushion as well as on. Whatever awareness we acquire in our life, we can use that awareness to better see and to do more skillfully, to more skillfully execute whatever it is we're doing. These more skillful actions generate still greater awareness, greater clarity for us. And this greater clarity allows us to be even more skillful yet in what we do, generating still, again, more clarity, more awareness, and so on ad infinitum. A little trickier perhaps, but also very useful, is learning to not dwell on thoughts and events over which we have no control. When my dog brings something home that's dead and rotten, I just say, "Leave it." And he usually does. We have to learn to leave behind hurts, insults, aggression, and what have you, so that we don't ingrain them in our mind stream. Let me remind you with this. It's not pleasant when somebody is rude to me, or a friend walks by and never even says hello. I can only guess at the reason why, but if I allow my feelings to get hurt, if I spend minutes, hours, days, or weeks dwelling on this, I'm just adding insult to the injury I imagined I sustained by the original hurt feelings. These are my feelings, and only I have control over them. Even if the person who snubs me did it purposely, I'm still responsible for my response to the snub. We can learn to just drop it and let it go. And we can, at the same time, stop recording karma for that event. If we get our feelings hurt and think about the event over and over and over, each time we think of it, we're digging a deeper and deeper track. We are inscribing our hurt into our mind stream. And then it actually begins to obscure our vision, and it sucks up our precious energy. Even worse, all of this embedded inscription of the event, our thinking about it, worrying about it, it doesn't just end there and then just fade away. It's what's called karma. And it's karma that digs a deep groove in us, but then itself ripens, and it will appear again to us over time as an even further obstacle to, an obstacle that can further obscure our mental clarity. So, an analogy that's not too far off would be if we made razor cuts on our arm, some deeper and deeper, etc. Not only would that mess up our arm, but in time the arm would have scars that would remain with us for a long, long time. The feng shui of the mind is something to think about too. We also have what we could call mental scars. In other words, with karma, we don't just have to worry about not doing the big things, like killing or whatever, stealing. Rather, it's this perpetual rain of small karma that really adds up and clogs the windshield of our mind. It's hard to remove and can easily or fairly easily be avoided. Karma is cumulative over time. if we can learn to just drop those things that we cannot change and turn our attention to other things, then while some karma is certainly recorded, at least it's not endlessly recorded and inscribed into our mind stream. We may get cuts from our initial reaction, but not the deep scarring that's fairly normal to all of us, going over and over and over something that has hurt our feelings. So it's best just to drop it. And please don't forget to dedicate the merit and to make at least some aspiration going into either a meditation practice or any life work. We may take care of the big things and still be eaten up by the little things that we do. The fact is that becoming more aware also means becoming increasingly responsible for everything we do. And it really means everything. Why is it that Zen monks and meditation masters find rest in every action, in everything they do? They are that mindful, that aware. It's also, all these little things add up. And this is something gradually that we can do something about. Meditation is basically inner mental aerodynamics, learning to airstream our mind so that it can perfectly rest in the winds of change, instead of the crazy kite stuff that most of us are flying now. Anyway, there you have a brief introduction and comments on shamatha meditation. I hope this is helpful.